ค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะผมเลยค่ะ
คุณแอนครับคุณแอนมาแชร์
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
ค่ะคุณแอนจากแคนาดาเลยค่ะ
ใช่
มาแดง
ใช่ครับคุณแอนจากแคนาดาครับ
ใช่ค่ะใช่ค่ะ
ค่ะเรื่องโควิดไปถึงไหนแล้วคะโควิด
โอ้ที่แคนาดาเหรอคะ
ค่ะที่แปลแล้วก็จะทำเสียง
โอ้
ด้วย
ที่แปล
ใช่ไหมคะ
ใช่ใช่กำลังลงทำอัดเครื่องนะคะ record ก็มีตอนนี้มีปัญหาก็จะต้องไปถามคุณวิจัยหรือคุณเอ็มนะคะต้องใช้เครื่องอัด
อ๋อค่ะ
ยังไม่เก่งค่ะ
ไม่เป็นไรค่ะดีไหมคะโควิด-19กับฝึกธรรมะ
มีค่ะ
มีประโยชน์สำหรับตลอดเวลาไม่ใช่เฉพาะเวลาโควิดเท่านั้นใช่ไหมคะ
ใช่ค่ะเห็นด้วยค่ะเห็นด้วยคิดว่ามีประโยชน์มากค่ะก็จะพยายามทำค่ะก็ถ้ามีปัญหากับเครื่องนี้จะถามเพื่อนจะมาช่วยค่ะแต่อยากทำค่ะอยากรีคอร์ด
ค่ะต้องขอบคุณมากเลยค่ะยินดีด้วยที่ได้ทำสนนี้นะคะ
ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
เชิญสนทนาเลยค่ะ
ค่ะ maybe we should speak English
กี่โมงแล้วคะที่คุณแอนอยู่
midnight ค่ะ
เท่าไหร่นะคือกี่โมงเวลานี้กี่โมงคะ
กลางคืนค่ะ midnight
โอ้โหสงสารคุณแอนจังค่ะไม่ได้ดู
อาจจะฟังค่ะก็สนทนาก็อาจจะต้องถ้างงเกินไปนะคะต้องอาจจะไม่อะไร
ไม่
2 ชั่วโมงอาจจะไม่ได้ค่ะเดี๋ยวจะพยายาม
ค่ะเชิญค่ะ
I don't everybody else does anybody have any questions
Yes I have a question
You go ahead Nina
Yeah I posted one to Sarah already It is like this Ajahn often says when aware we should not cling to that moment say it's seeing and aware of seeing because then we are not open to the next moment and I was wondering what the next moment is that sampatichana and does that have to do with realizing the arising and falling away of realities which is a later stage of insight. I was wondering about that.
Is there sampatichana now?
There is, but I don't know it, of course.
So what can we know now?
Only seeing, but not precisely. It's usually an idea of seeing. And I was reminded that we talk a lot about seeing and we repeat instead of understanding the present moment.
So what should be the beginning of understanding Dhamma as not self? The point is all Dhammas are Dhammas, no one at all, no self, no thing in it. But it has to be the understanding a little clearer of what is appearing now. Otherwise, it's like not understanding reality, keep on and not understanding, just hearing about it. But the truth is that listen about whatever we can hear now to understand the truth, structure of this very moment as it is. Otherwise, it cannot let go the idea of self at all. It's not the matter should when there is awareness. Even how can awareness arise? By I, by anyone, or if there's no intellectual understanding, there's no conditions at all. for right awareness to arise and be aware with understanding of what has heard before. Otherwise, it cannot conform what is heard and what appears now. So it's not the matter of should there be this or that at that very moment, but to understand that which is hidden for eons and years ago, not appear to understanding as it is, until hearing the teachings, developing understanding, and when the conditions are right, ready to condition a moment of right awareness, it shows its characteristic, its nature as no one at all, only that very reality which arises through aware. So it's a matter of be truthful, Satya Barami, just hearing any words about whatever appears now until there are conditions enough for a moment of direct understanding, naturally, unexpectedly, beyond will or desire or intention at all. And this is the way to let go. The other way, try to let go, it's not the way to let go. That is why one can understand what's meant by the parami, not just 1 year or 2 years or one life. It takes more than eons and eons to develop the firm confidence on no one now. Reality cannot be changed into anything. It has its own characteristic, and it's just conditioned to be there and then all gone, completely. Sunyata, never at all, never be again at all, never to return at all. And this is the only way to develop understanding, by understanding little by little, until it's time not to forget that now it's not me at all. No matter what, thinking arises and falls away, not me. Hearing, considering, liking, disliking, hardness, softness, all appear when there are conditions and then gone completely, never to return to. The only way, which is the Magga, lead to understanding deeper and deeper, penetrate the truth of it, which is now is hidden all the time, from moment to moment. That's why we begin to understand the meaning of khanti. Not just to be khanti to wrong understanding or harsh word or all akusa, but to develop the understanding of not me, no I at all. It's gone. Everything is gone immediately. And then the other arises. So there's no penetration to the moment of the moment of a fallen away of the previous one.
So
It's
it's okay, Nina.
Sorry, this is difficult for me. What Ajahn just said.
Not for you, for everyone. for Panya to arise, not easy at all, because of great amount of ignorance. Not for
So,
you,
Ajahn,
but for the truth.
Ajahn, you're reminding us the importance of detachment.
Okay, from
right?
what?
Because realities rise and fall away, and if there's no understanding, there's attachment. So when there's understanding, there's detachment.
To what? From what? Detachment from what?
Detachment from what has just fallen away.
What is that which fallen away?
Like seeing, hearing, thinking.
Okay. So it means that the letting go, the wrong understanding, which taking the seeing for self, or any moment or anything which is now appearing, not letting go from just the idea of self, but from not understanding, because when there is the moment of taking, seeing for self, let go of the clinging to the self, not by themselves, but by conditions.
So understanding has to go in stages. In the beginning, it's letting go from the idea of self. Is that what you're saying, Ajahn?
Can that be letting go from the very beginning? Because after 3 moments of after seeing 3 moments, there are akusala, attachment. Asava is there, unknown. Every time after seeing 3 moments, then there must be asava, clinging to it. Tittasava, avijjasava, pavasava, and kamasava, depending on what are there at that very moment, unknown. But it's there. That's why learn to understand. No self, no one. They are all different realities from life to life. Different one. Only once in samsara. Never be 2 or 3 at all. Just one time, one reality, one moment. No more. And this is a way to letting go the idea of taking, seeing for self, but it's not as rapidly like we would like it to be. So very little, and be truthful to seeing right now how much understanding of it. Otherwise, it's just clinging, not letting go, because no understanding. So clinging is there. So there is no I from the very beginning to the end. The truth is the truth. It can be changed. That's why it is the Four Noble Truths. No one, even right now, see, but no understanding of the truth of whatever is now appearing. No matter who take this for that or whatever, the truth is that no one, no thing, just the appearance of that which is conditioned to arise and then fall away instantly. Even 1 moment cannot be known, 2 or 3 cannot be known, because you see that now several things appear together, like all at once, as long as one opens one's eyes. Learning to understand the difference between ignorance and right understanding is satya, the truth, which is very difficult to penetrate or to understand. But satya, to understand, condition, khanti, patience, and viriya, and atidana, from moment to moment, by conditions, like holding the handle's knife. The wearing away of the knife handle does not appear, but without touching, it's impossible to make it wearing away. Little by little, from time to time, from one moment of understanding to another moment of understanding. Understanding what? That which is now appearing, which seems so permanent, so long, from morning up to now. But actually, it is karnika marana, temporary death, never to return. Everything dies away, completely, absolutely.
So Ajahn, it just occurred to me the simile of the knife handle is actually a reminder not to think too much about progress or what has just gone or whether Panya is developing or not. But because it cannot be perceived, it cannot be measured, one cannot, it happens or it does not happen.
But that is thinking. Can anyone do like one thing about to do?
No, and that's the example of the knife handle is meant to remind us that you cannot do anything.
But understanding develops, not knowing the characteristic of understanding and ignorance. Now one knows. Even ignorance does not appear as it is yet as a self, or understanding does not appear how much there is understanding it is, but it's there. So kanti, to understand, that's all. The function of panya is to understand, not to manage, not to run anything as it is like with function of panya. It depends on the degree of the understanding of whatever is appearing now. So it's so very truthful, satya parami, when it's only hearing about seeing, but seeing is still there. It does not appear as it arises and falls away at all, because panya is not enough to understand what is meant by that which is seen. See, no idea. It's so short. It's like the lightning, just very fast and then gone. So how can there be the understanding of that? But that is doubt. What is that? Whatever appears, ignorance is there. It's doubt. What is that? No answer, because it's not right understanding. That is only a reality. So the truth of everything is, it's a reality. Only that, because it's real. And it's there by conditions. So no matter how much understanding from books or from thinking, considering, it will lead to understand whatever is now appearing by conditions. It shows the anatomies all the way from hearing and understanding how much or how little, and how it can begin to understand directly of whatever is now appearing by conditions, little by little, unexpectedly, beyond expectation, because it hasn't conditioned to arise yet. And this is a natural. So not just remember the word anatta, but it's not me. Because everything appears to me. Whatever I like, it's I. See? So if there is the understanding of no I, it brings about understanding of no thing, no matter what is said. Beginning to understand the truth which is hidden so long before hearing the teachings about its nature, its truth. That is just that which is there with the four Mahaputarupa, but the Mahaputarupa cannot be seen at all. Only that kind of a reality which is there can impinge on the eye base, and seeing can see it. Seeing only can see it. The citta before seeing cannot see, and the citta after seeing cannot see. So the world is quite a very rapid rolling on by conditions, no one there. And that is samsara, again and again. Each life, seeing, hearing, smelling, thinking, different situation, and then gone completely. So what's the use of just be like that without I? It's only different realities, uncontrollable. And when there's no conditions for its arising, it cannot arise. Even now, it has a reason to be such reality which can be known through different ways. But if they do not arise, no, what appears now is not at now. It's not now. It cannot be now. And when it's not now, where is it? It hasn't arisen yet, so nothing. So one begins to understand what it's meant by nothing. And sunyata, anatta, not me, anatta, sunyata, gone completely, nothing more. Sunyata, completely lost, never to be that again. So actually, no, I, not just now, from birth and after that, from eons and eons. And this is the understand the truth, the reality, the Dhamma, just one word that Buddha said means whatever is real. The truth of that cannot be changed. So the point of hearing is to understand whatever appears when time comes directly by conditions. So that is what is meant by the word appear well in Tipitaka.
Ajahn, it seems we're long way from really understanding sunyata. So how is it helpful at this point? Because we tend, with so little panya, we tend to think about it with no understanding.
But begin to understand that actually nothing is left. It's conditioned to be there only very rapidly, very short, and then fall away. So the clinging to the idea of self will be less and less, gradually wearing away. And from having less wrong understanding of self, there will be more kusala. Because panya can understand, it's not I, so what is it? It is kusala or akusala. And the difference, characteristic, and different conditions, different function, which we take for I from life to life, that's all. No
So,
matter its
Ajahn,
feeling.
Can we say that even though we're talking about something that we cannot understand now, that can be a condition for understanding to arise now at the level that of some reality that we at the level that we can understand?
Otherwise, there's no way at all. Only this is the way.
And Nina, this is the answer to your question, that through the development of understanding, the clinging to the idea of self becomes less and less, because when there's clinging to being and the idea of being aware of seeing, trying to be aware of seeing, this is like when we say to people, don't try to select an object or focus on a particular object, because it is the idea of self clinging to something that has passed already because of sunyata. It's already gone. And what appears now, hearing, thinking, attachment. So whilst clinging to that object, such as seeing or the visible object, there's no, what was your word, openness to the next moment. It means no openness to what appears now. It doesn't mean to sampatichana and then santirana. It's not like that. It means no openness or no understanding of what actually appears now, because the self is still clinging to, trying to be aware of something that's long gone. Is it a little bit clearer now?
But Ajahn often says we have to be open to the next moment, so don't cling to this moment. And I was wondering whether this has to do with arising and falling away. And realizing arising and falling away Does that mean the falling away of seeing and the arising of sampatichana? But I'm aware that my question is full of self that I want to know. I know that.
I think that when it's mentioned open to the next moment, it means open to what appears now. It doesn't mean literally open to understand every bhavanga citta and every sampatichana and santirana, just whatever appears now. Because the realities arise and the cittas rise and fall away so rapidly. So it's whilst clinging to seeing or clinging to this object that I should understand, there's no understanding, no awareness of what actually appears now, the thinking, the lobha.
Yes, but we have no idea what it means, the rising and falling away of reality. What does it mean?
I think it means like Sukin's question about whether there can be any understanding of the meaning of sunyata, what's gone. But now, seeing now is gone instantly. The hearing now is gone instantly. So it's just the beginning of understanding that whatever arises doesn't last an instant. The hardness touched a moment ago is long, long gone. There have been countless hardnesses since, countless visible objects seen. So that understanding begins to grow, begins to develop, begins to be a little more detached from what appears now, not trying to be aware, not trying to catch reality at all, beginning to understand that dhammas are anatta, just rising by conditions and gone instantly. No one can do anything, no one can select an object to be aware of, no one can choose what appears next.
So we don't have to be aware of a particular reality.
That self trying to be aware.
Self again.
Yes, an idea of I should be aware of this reality because I read about it. Yeah, it's not understanding just naturally whatever appears.
Yes.
It's I behind it, trying to catch reality, trying to know reality, trying to find it. Exactly what when we tell people don't select an object and it's useless to meditate and focus on an object, but it's still that wrong practice can creep in anytime, even in a Dhamma discussion, trying to catch reality, trying to be aware of seeing or hearing or thinking about sampatichana, just not understanding what appears very naturally. Or if there's no understanding, there's no understanding. But whatever arises, it's by conditions, not by I doing anything at all.
Yes.
And Kunina, what do you mean by don't cling?
Well, it's the opposite of letting go. So not trying to hold on or trying to be aware. That is clinging.
Can you say to anyone, try to be aware and don't cling?
Try to be aware and don't cling.
That's the Buddha's word.
It's clinging already. Trying to be aware is clinging already.
No one can control at all, but understand what is what. So without understanding, it's impossible to understand whatever appears, no matter how much one tries in different ways. No understanding is there. So only from hearing the teaching, study carefully, respectfully. From the very beginning, the word Dhamma, what does it mean? No one, a reality, it's true, it's real. So we are talking about the truth of everything as no self, uncontrollable, anatta, no I, not me at all. And in a day, for example today, is there any very short moment or even a moment of thinking, it's not me? Just thinking. Not at all. It means that conditions are not enough to even have conditions to think about it. Even thinking about that which is now appearing as not me is so very difficult. So it's impossible to say don't cling or don't try anything. Just says the words which can condition understanding because it's so true, because it's just about right now, to be truthful to this moment, beginning from, can that be I? This is the beginning, to understand clearly that there is no I. But it's impossible to tell or to say to anyone, don't cling, don't do, don't go, don't. It's impossible, or do. But when there are words like that between wholesome deeds and unwholesome deeds, kusala and akusala, when one says that kusala is better, panya knows its function. Its function is to understand what is right thing to do. It knows what is right and what's wrong. So by understanding and knowing, it conditions the moment of kusala. So everything is conditioned, no matter what kind of thinking, right or wrong, try or not try, do or don't. But no one can tell anyone to don't or do at all. But understanding the word completely, clearly about what is the truth, the highest truth of it. No one, no thing at all. It takes quite a long time. It does matter because the wishing is not conditioned for understanding, but the hearing and considering is the moment of letting go wrong understanding at that very moment of understanding.
When I
Nothing can be done.
When I ask a question, I realize behind it is the self, but that is only by thinking. It's not really truly understanding, but by thinking, I realize my question now is motivated by an idea of, I want to know.
Until becoming Sotapanna, there is no idea of self anymore. So it's so common. But it can be understood that that is not perfect understanding, even at level of intellectual understanding. When it's the clear understanding of panya at the level of intellectual understanding, no matter what words Buddha talk about Sariputta and Moggallana, it doesn't mean that he didn't realize the truth of Nama and Rupa. See? So one understands the word Dhamma, so one can talk about it with understanding. It has to be true from the very beginning to the end, never change at all. It's there. So when Buddha say about do good deeds, see, do good deeds, it's not a command. It's not telling someone to do, but seeing the value, the understanding of what is right and what is wrong, what is wholesome and what is wholesome. So it has to be panya from the very beginning to understand the words of the Buddha, which is quite right reminder about the truth all the time. That it is not self, it is not me, no one at all. Even good deeds, do good deeds, it's not I who do, but do good deeds is a function of Dhamma. So when one has the understanding of Dhamma will letting go the idea of self little by little. No matter we read about do good deeds or sati arises, see, not me. So it will bring more to condition, moment of understanding what appears now. No selection, no choice. Why? Because it has a reason by condition. So each word of the Buddha and any moment with understanding can understand the anatta-ness of Dhamma. And when that arises and falls away, never to return, sunyata. So the same word. It's like reality, the conditioned realities arise and falls away. We can say this many times, but they do not appear as what we said yet. But one day it is conditioned to appear to panya. So no one can change this moment. It's so natural. It depends only on panya, whether how much understanding it is of whatever we are talking about it. We are talking about it, which is now, to understand better and deeper with right awareness, which is there with right understanding. So it's useless try to be aware without any understanding or not enough understanding. So whenever whatever appears, right understanding can know clearly whether how much understanding is there. And when there is doubt, vicikiccha, panya knows it's doubt. But when there's not enough panya, it's me. What's that? I doubt. See? So it's just a matter of panya to perform its function when it has developed to higher degrees.
Nina, when you say, "Oh, I know behind my question it's the idea of self, but it's only intellectual understanding," it means that there's wishing for it to be deeper and higher understanding instead of just whatever understanding it is. That's how it is conditioned at that moment. So no matter it's lobha now or moha or intellectual understanding, it's just however it is conditioned at this moment. So wishing for it to be more understanding is just more wishing, more clinging to having understanding.
Yes.
Instead of just being content with whatever is conditioned at that moment. And any understanding is so precious. So even the beginning to understand that behind one's idea of trying to be aware is the idea of self there. It's so precious to appreciate that. The path is so very subtle. So I think it doesn't matter how little or much understanding is there, because it's the clinging that hinders the growth of understanding, as Ajahn mentioned.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thinking it should be more than it is, yes.
And yes, I think that's what I was thinking when I first heard Nina's question, that Ajahn saying don't cling was actually a reminder about clinging being a hindrance.
Yes.
And that is the truthfulness to appreciate that it is just beginning of understanding, and that it is self behind at that moment of clinging, and beginning to appreciate that, because it's not easy to understand at all how much clinging there is to the idea of self behind our point about being aware or whatever it is, because we think when it's Dhamma that it's something useful. We don't realize
That's
when we ask how and can I and so on.
That's the usefulness of discussing, because then I was reminded, you see, I had never thought of it myself, that the self is behind this question. So discussing is so useful, because then it comes out what one doesn't understand yet.
See, we are talking about what is now, but no understand of that which is now, right?
Yeah, often it is only talking about what is now. That's quite good, yeah, good reminder.
So to listen, just to understand whatever appears now, naturally, by conditions. So I don't know whether I said don't or do, I couldn't remember that. But if there is the understanding of Dhamma as not self, no matter what word is there, the understanding of that is there. Because in sutta, so many times, do have patience or viriya and so on, awareness. It doesn't mean that have it now, but the point is that understanding it. because he said nothing can be taken for self. Each reality cannot be changed, cannot be controlled. So when there is understanding of this, no doubt about whatever words, the truth is that it's not anyone, no one, no me. Is
Ajahn,
the Sanya Cetasik now? See? Is the Sanya Cetasika now? It's the unknown until time comes. Who can know when? And can one select to know it at this moment or that moment? Because it is the object of clinging from birth, all five khandas, everything, from moment to moment in life. That's why listening, and the point is just to understand, and understanding is not I either. It's a reality which is different from ignorance. And only understanding better and better, clearly and clearer, there can be the letting go, taking things for I. And it's so daily life. For example, today, is there any moment thinking of no me, not me now? To be truthful. So it's just the development of understanding only, which will wear away the idea of self at moment of understanding. And understanding what? At the end, it has to understand whatever appears, only that, because it's just only that reality which is there, nothing else. And when we say nothing else, what does it mean? Nothing at all, only that which appears, because there are conditions for panya to penetrate or to let go the attachment to other things, because it is moment of understanding only a reality by itself. And this is the studying the teachings of the Buddha, to understand the truth of everything as Dhamma, Anatta, and Sunyata. No dukkha anymore, because there's nothing conditioned anymore. Until then, little by little, stage by stage, very natural. When it's not natural, the I is there. Something is behind, which try to make it not natural. So Panya can understand the moment of no direct awareness and moment of direct awareness, and different degrees of understanding. And akusala, they are not me, not anyone, not anything permanent at all. Just arise and fall away all the time, never to return.
Ajahn, you've mentioned virya and kanti also being part of the development of understanding. And I would, if you could talk a bit about how all the 10 parami are interrelated and how they enhance or condition each other.
For example, without understanding, how can there be patience to develop understanding?
Okay.
See? And when there's problem and there's the moment of understanding, not change, that no matter if it's there, good or bad situation, better or worse situation, not me. See? So Panya is there to understand the truth. Little by little, not me, whatever. Fortune or disfortune. Happiness, unhappiness, everything just come. It's there for a moment. For a moment. So that is the world. Without all these, no world at all. So the world is in just a moment. It takes
So,
time.
Ajahn, all Burmese, similar, same as Panya, starts from low level and develops.
Yes.
And so at the intellectual level, the Burmese are of that level. When it's direct understanding, it means the Burmese have also increased.
Right. Without Panya, it cannot be, anything cannot be Parami, no matter it's Dana or Sila. Does anyone study for the sake of the result of understanding?
Ajahn,
Yes.
for us, whenever we think study for this or do this for that, it's usually attachment, isn't it?
Certainly, certainly, until no I at all. There are only conditions, hetu and pajya and pajupanna, see, cause and effect, that's all. And gone completely. Not for anyone at all, just for the moment when it arises and falls away. Doesn't belong to anyone, never to return. And this is the moment of letting go, little by little, from not understanding what is now appearing, like seeing. Even is that which experiences, we heard a lot about it, but how can it appear as just it is, nothing else at all in the world, only that which arises and experiences? So there are so many great levels of Panya, different levels. Even the word Sappa Parinya, it has to be after Vipassana Jnana. Otherwise, we are talking about the words and we think about whatever appears and no direct understanding of anyone yet until there are conditions enough to understand that very moment that it's there by condition, not me at all. The understanding of not I begins and begins little by little until everything after enlightenment, Vipassana Jnana, it has to develop to understand all in life, anything which appears as Sappa Parinya, no me, before the higher Panya can develop. So this is the way of detachment from wanting the result or clinging to the idea of self, to the whatever we take as things permanent or I from life to life. No I at all. Life is so short and each one is going to die, going to each moment, but we don't know when. So it's so natural, just the very close movement of the two citta. As long as this has fallen away, the other arise, perform different function. Who knows? So very rapid, more than now, because it's the different function of different kinds of citta, cetasikas, conditioned by karma. All of this can condition the understanding of no self. Are you Sukhin? Or
Yes. It's always coming back to Sukhin, Ajahn.
Until more understanding of no Sukhin, no I. When there's no I, no Sukhin, it's only the name for this life. The reality is in this life. That's all. And no more Sukhin, no more this life.
Ajahn, you just talked about the Sabba Parinya, and as I understand, is it about the different stages of insights? So why? So when talking about Parinya, what the terms try to emphasize? So this is the emphasis of this classification.
The reality, the truth of each reality is beyond expectation. How deep it is, how fast and how true it is. But it doesn't happen to be understood because it's not panya, not enough panya even to have direct understanding of what is now appearing. But the Buddha enlightened the noble truth, and he showed the path leading to such understanding, to understand from the very beginning of just from word to word, like Dhamma, it means whatever is real, the truth is true right now. We can talk about seeing because there is seeing. So seeing is real, it's Dhamma. So when it's Dhamma, it cannot be I at all. See, to understand more and more about this, but this is not direct understanding of seeing yet. So how can there be vipassana jnana, which experience the characteristic of each reality as different ones? Otherwise, the whole thing together is I all the time. I see, I hear, I think. But there are different realities, different movements, arising by different conditions, and then no more, never more in samsara. See, so the understanding of what is now appearing should be understood from hearing that we are listening to, understand that which is now appearing. Without these words, no right understanding about the truth of that which is now appearing all day, but not the same one at all, unknown. See? So this is only intellectual understanding. So thinking about the patipatti and thinking about the pativeda, different strengths of panya. So how can there be the understanding of the characteristic of nama right now or rupa right now, whatever appears, when it's not vipassana jnana, which sees clearly, directly, like seeing something on the hand. It's not far away, it's now at this moment. So Panya is different from different level of understanding. And the idea of self is less because when it appears as not self, but vipassana is very short, very rapid, like each moment now. And it doesn't long like when there's no understanding, it's there all the time, no arising and falling away. But once it has been experienced, no doubt about just that, which is the object of vipassana. But what about other things? Avijja is there, attachment is there, hidden again and again. That's why it needs parami all the way from each level of understanding to apply or condition the moment of not forgetting the characteristic which appears as it is. Because even right now, it does not appear as it is in vipassana. Otherwise, there's no word like vipassana. See, it's just like now, which is not moment of vipassana. So if there is hoping, wishing, again, lopa is there, follow anything. Everything can be object of lopa. And vicikiccha is there about now, because it's not vipassana. So whatever appears, no matter what degree, the sanya, which remembers, begin to understand and remember the anatta-ness of reality, not just from hearing, but from experiencing, is to be applied by conditions. The hardest, the most difficult is not by anyone, but by conditions. And there are less condition for panya than condition of avijja. That's why it takes quite a long time to let go, not wish, not hope, not expect for any moment of enlightenment. And that is the only way to lessen the clinging to the idea of self. It seems long, but when there is lopa, it's longer than that. Even the understanding at level of intellectual understanding is not easy. That's why people go wrong, because careless thinking about the truth of the word of the Buddha. Take it so easy, but it's so very, very subtle.
So, Tam, the parinyas are, sabba parinya means understanding all, and there are 3 parinyas which arise between the vipassana jnanas, which understand what has been realized clearly at those moments. So, for example, the first one, jnata parinya, is the full understanding of what has been known, and it's the understanding that arises after the Namarupa Paricheda Jnana, the first stage of insight, and it knows what the understanding understood, not to be forgotten again. So it's like it practices or continues to understand what was realized until the second stage of insight. And then the second parinya, the tirana parinya, is the understanding of investigating, and this is between the second stage of insight and I've forgotten which one. And then there is the third parinya, the pahana parinya, the understanding of the overcoming So they're kinds of direct understanding which arise between the Vipassana jnanas, and in short, Sabba Parinya, referring to all these parinyas. We can read about them in the commentaries too.
Thank you, Sarah.
You see that moments of vipassana jhana is different from other moments at all. Quite different. That's why it is vipassana jhana. But once it has arisen, it's so clear at that very moment that Sanya remember the characteristic which is anatta, no one, no self. But after that moment, the accumulation and doubt and everything is there, hasn't been eradicated. So there are conditions as before. So comparing the moment of vipassana jhana and lots of ignorance and avijja, only the first vipassana jhana is not enough. That's why panya has to develop keener and keener, stronger and stronger, just to condition moment of understanding, the higher level, stage by stage. But each is different. That's why for Sariputta, in not so long moment at all, to be Sotapanna, and for Pahiya, what about the Vipassana jhana until Arahata? Just like now, see, because Chitta and Cetasika arises and falls away so rapidly. So no expectation how long it will take from one step, one stage of Vipassana jhana to another, or all would arise at once or very fast, one after one another. See, these are all anatta. That's why the idea of no self can be eradicated completely. But it needs and it takes the panya to develop from hearing, considering, and direct awareness, uncontrollable. It has to be long, but when there is attachment, it is longer. Because more lopa, more attachment to be varying away. So no expectation at all. It's the truth of panya, anatta. So life goes on naturally by conditions. And panya can arise at moment of when conditions are ready, of what degree.
And Tom, I just checked. So the Jnata Parinya, the first one, the understanding, the understanding of what has been known arises between the first and second stages of insight. And the Tirana Parinya the investigating understanding arises between the third and fourth stages of insight, the comprehension of groups and the knowledge of the arising and falling away. And the Pahana Parinya, the understanding of overcoming, begins at the fifth stage of insight, the understanding of the dissolution, Bhanga Jnana, upwards. So it's just referring to the kind of knowledge of what has been understood clearly, what has been realized, the Patibheda at those levels. And there's one sutta, which is the Sabba Parinya Sutta, which refers to the full understanding of the all as well.
So the meaning of parinya is like knowing, right? Or
Parinya, it's referring to the understanding, the full understanding of what has been known.
okay. Mm-hmm.
From vipassana jhana. So now it's not sappaparinya, no matter how much we think about that which is seen, heard, and so on in the day. It's only conditions for that very moment, for the object appear well, so well as it is to different levels of panya. Because even at the first jhana, nama, rupa, patichetayana, nama has to appear as it is. And the rupa, the object, has to appear as it is, as different ones. So it is known one by one, not together at the same time. And when it's so clear, it means that nothing is there. Only one which is understood clearly, like seeing with the eyes. So clear, it's not closing the eyes and thinking, but it's the moment of experiencing directly the nature of it. It has to be the understanding of that which not me at all, it's that which experience. This is not I, but it's not completely eradicated. Because even at that moment, that reality arises and falls again, but not known, because it's the first appearance of that which is the truth. It never changes at all. But it cannot be seen by ignorance, cannot be understood by not developed understanding. So the appearing of that and just thinking, understanding from beginning, intellectual understanding is different, even different from moment of patipatti, direct awareness, because it's direct, but where's panya? How much panya? Is it enough to have it appear well, just one at a time? No world at all. The whole world, lost. Nothing else but that. Otherwise, it cannot be vipassana jhana at all. And that is only the first vipassana jhana, because even the object, what is there? The experiencing, arising and falling away, the rupa, arising and falling away, is not known to that level of panya. That panya is keen enough, conditioned to understand the difference between the reality which has no shape, no form, nothing, no sound, no smell at all. Only the reality is true because it's there, experience. No I appear from then on.
And Ajahn, you gave a good example once to us about how if one has never been to a place, one's friend may describe it in great detail, but one can only imagine it. Just like if you've never been to the beach in Manly, I can tell you about the surf and the sand, but you can only think about it. You don't really know quite what I'm talking about. And it's the same thing. If there's never been the experience of the first vipassana jnana, there cannot be the direct understanding of realities, which is of the deeper level succeeding that jnana, because there hasn't been that clear understanding of realities. So that's why the parinyas follow the vipassana jnanas and understand more deeply, because there's been that clear understanding.
So because even from the beginning, the difference between intellectual understanding and the patipatti. See, when patipatti, the direct awareness does not arise yet, how can you know? It can only be different from intellectual understanding. We talk about sati, that which is aware. So, is there awareness now of what? Or it is aware of what is heard for panya to understand. See, different level. But when sati arises, no doubt about the characteristic of direct awareness, because it is aware with right understanding that it is that which is aware, no one at all. And how much understanding is there. When it's the first time in this life or many lives before, it depends on understanding, how much understanding arises with it, or just very little understanding, the moment of direct awareness and moment of no direct awareness. Even this has to be directly experienced before there can be the development of panya enough to experience the nama, rupa, paricetiyana, to understand the object. For example, when there's no direct awareness, we can understand the object which is seen. It's only that which is so short, and it's not the table or anything or any idea, just that which arises and it falls away instantly, all the time, to appear as something. But the reality, the nature of it is so short, and it's the understanding at level of intellectual. But when direct awareness is there, it's there. Its characteristic appears as what we have heard before, the hardness or whatever it is, the smell or whatever it is. No choice at all, no selection, no expectation. So sammasati arises, and panya understand the moment of sammasati, but it depends on how much understanding of the object, which is the object of direct awareness. That's why it develops. It has to develop from hearing again, no expectation from direct awareness, patipati, to arise. And when it arises, no expectation to have it more or this time or at the time of showering or whatever. This brings more understanding of anattanness before it can appear to vipassana jnana, that level of understanding directly, precisely, clearly. But the object begins to appear well, little by little, until as well as it's as that only in vipassana jnana. And only this can condition detachment from taking it for I or something permanent as before. From time to time, by conditions. That is Khanti Parami, Satya Parami, Viriya Parami, Adhidana Parami.
You often mention Adhitana Parami when you're mentioning Kanti Parami, Virya, Satya Parami. When there's understanding, there must be patience, there must be truthfulness, there must be courage, effort. The Adhitana, the resolution, when there's understanding, the resolution is right, the resolution to understand this moment. No change, no just resolute to what appears now. Is this the meaning?
Right now, is it not so?
Yes, just resolute to what appears now is the Adhitana Parami.
Firmer and firmer.
Yes. Firm and firmer resolution at this moment of whatever is conditioned now.
And so it has to be the understanding of that which appears now.
Yes, otherwise impossible for there to be that kind of resolution at that moment. It's very subtle.
That's why we can understand more about conditions.
Yes, yes. People always think about making resolutions, but it has nothing to do with that at all. It's just at the moment of understanding, one is resolute to whatever appears at that moment.
That's right. The words of the Buddha should be studied very carefully to understand that each word conforms the other words.
So can we say that understanding conditions on kusala like patience or virya with understanding, and in turn those kusala qualities with understanding condition further understanding. That's how it's the parami can take one to enlightenment at the later stage, right?
Panya sees the danger of akusala, so it will lead to more kusala. Do we understand enough about the danger of akusala?
Far from enough. Just a little from time to time.
That's why when there are more panya, more kusala. Great war between akusala and panya.
And the understanding of no self understands and conditions a different kind of kusala, which is accompanied with by understanding. So it's different because there can many people who never heard about the Buddha's teaching. They can also have a lot of kusala, but it's different in the case of the kusala that are conditioned by understanding.
Do they understand reality or just the words?
Just the words.
So they don't understand what is sati, but they know what sati from translation in Pali, from Pali.
But isn't sila, metta, karuna, etc. the same regardless it arises with someone who has understanding or not?
Where's Tam?
Are you there, Tom?
You
Yes.
asked Tam?
Yes, I'm here.
I just asked
you a question. Yes.
I asked you a question. You said something along the lines that the kusla that arises as a result of pandya is different from the kusla that arises in people who don't have pandya. And I asked, sila is sila, metta is metta, karuna is karuna, and it's the same, isn't it? Regardless of who, when it arises.
I was thinking about the parami because when sila is accompanied by understanding, so it's different in that sense with people who might never kill, but there's no understanding that it's not self who restrain from killing. So in that sense that I say that it's different.
So you're referring to panya arising.
Right.
So it's panya is but not the kusla is still kusla.
Yes.
And I believe, as you reasoned earlier, that all kuslas are encouraged to arise when there's more understanding. But I don't think it is correct. I mean that the sila would be different, but sila would still be sila, and karuna would be karuna, metta would be karuna, as before. Yeah.
Just so only the sense that it condition understanding. That's why it's parami is different, and not all kusala can be parami. I think just I was talking rather in that sense.
Not all
So
kusala.
it's not the kusla, but it's the panya that determines whether it's parami or not.
Yes, but in the case of parami, it's it panya that accompanies different kinds of kusala as well. So not just panya, but different kusala as well, right?
I mean, the panya that would know that the metta is not self, or sila is not self. That is parami.
Right. So regarding the same topic, so kusala is only parami when there's understanding at that moment, or it's because I think in the book that I read, the parami is defined as the kusala that are not defiled by DT, by tanha, by mana. And does that necessarily mean that panya should be there at the same time, or it means only that it's conditioned by panya?
When you say defiled, I understand that the kusala which has arisen are taken for with attachment, with diti, or with mana. But instead of, I mean, on the other hand, kusala has arisen and it's known to be just reality, which is different. But the kusala itself with panya, you mean if karuna arises, it has a being as object. Do you think that would be with panya also?
At the same moment, the panya which understands reality, so it cannot be at the same moment.
So then we're talking about different realities. We're talking about karuna being kusala, and we're talking about panya being kusala and being another level of kusala. So Ajahn, maybe you can help us. So when we say a barami, like sila barami, dana barami, what exactly is it, Ajahn?
What for?
Just to understand, when we hear about barami, to
Yes.
better understand what it is.
What parami for? What is parami for?
Barami is for attainment of enlightenment, eradication of kilesas.
That is only parami. Without it, can all these other, what you said, be parami?
I'm not sure, Ajahn.
That's why we have to understand what form, no matter what one is doing. Listening to the teachings to understand how to do, or what form, or to have more dana, more sila, or what.
For me, there's nothing more important than understanding and lessening ignorance and wrong understanding.
So we can see that because of panya, which understand its function and its aim, its goal, its highest goal is to understand the truth, the satya, as no one nothing. That's why there must be right understanding, which is panya. And it's not easy to understand the truth because each words of the Buddha will bring about the understanding of what is now as it is. And it's so very difficult. That's why it needs virya. Never stop. It does mean that all day or night, but it does not it does not leave the virya for understanding when time comes by conditions. So first of all, there must be the more and more understanding of not self. Otherwise, you cannot get away from lopa. You have to be enslaved by lopa as before, no matter what you hear about. So just to understand the truth, it takes virya and khanti and resolution or determination, Sat Adhidana Barami, and Nekama Barami is getting away little by little from attachment through six doorways to everything. Like that you cling too much to what, and Panya can see that is it good or should it be more or something like that. Panya develops in its own way. Nobody knows what way it is going, this way or that way, but it develops to have less and less attachment, and it has to be long time with Viriya and with Khanti. At moment of very strong attachment is there. Can you think of the best thing not to have it arise? Seeing the danger, at that moment it's not there. So it needs more parami, listening, and viriya, and khanti, and adhidana. See, all concerned relating the truth. No matter giving away, usually you cannot give away the thing you like very much. But when time comes, can you do that? Just for parami, like parami of Bodhisattva before his enlightenment. See, it can bring more the understanding to get less attached to what is so very much attached before. So it's like the wall between the akusla and panya. And who wins? Depending on that very moment, less or more understanding or parami. Enough or not enough yet? Ready or not ready yet? To be so truthful to the truth, such a parami. Otherwise,
So,
one is enslaved by the idea of self all the time, even right now.
Even when you just said that, talked about the need to develop Burmese because of so much ignorance and clinging, and how important Burmese is. The main thing is that there must be understanding to know that it's not self also, isn't it?
By panya, not by I.
Yeah. Ajahn, it's very hard when we hear about the Baramis, as Sarah earlier was trying to illustrate when she was explaining about Adhidhana, that it's a reality that arises in the moment, because we tend to think in terms of each Barami leading to another, or being the result of understanding that arises in a later time on another occasion. So what isn't it best just to understand, and when we hear to understand that it's just Dhamma that is being referred to?
That is the best thing, the right thing, to understand the truth. Why do we listen to the words of the Buddha? To understand the truth. Why do we keep on hearing? Just to understand the truth. Sooner or later, more or less, little by little, by conditions. Otherwise, we are enslaved again and again the whole life, no matter understanding can be I want to know more or better than the other. See, all are different dhammas. Can there be detachment from taking it from me for I? Because actually each is gone instantly, never to return at all. Actually, no one, even right now. Until then, Panya develop again and again, more and more, higher and higher, stronger and stronger, before there can be more understanding of each level of the truth.
And Ajahn, you have always talked about seeing now, hearing now. Nina heard you 40 years plus ago, and I heard you 20 years ago. And isn't it that we don't even understand seeing now, and we're trying so hard to understand things that are even more hard to understand? Is that a fair conclusion, Ajahn?
When you don't think of the result of what you have learned or what you have understood, it's better than I understand as much or as less or a little more. No I, but they are seeing right now because of conditions. So there can be direct understanding right then when there are conditions. So it depends on conditions. And listening with understanding is a condition to understand that which is a self as not self. No matter when, not to be enslaved by desire to get it so soon in this life of 20 years or 40 years, 60 years, 100 years. Change it into life and years. It doesn't matter. As long as it's not the moment of direct awareness yet, it cannot lead to the final truth of it.
Yes, I think it's quite useless to think like that, oh, I've studied so long or so short, or there's more understanding now or less, or how much awareness, or couldn't there be more? Because all this kind of thinking is real papancha, just totally takes away from just the understanding of dhammas. So when we're talking about the paramis, we're just talking about different wholesome cetasikas that arise and develop with the right understanding of realities. Nothing to do with my development or my amount of understanding or how many or few paramis I have. So I think it's good to know. Someone once asked me if there were more moments of awareness now than in the past, and I said I just never think about that kind of thing. And Ajahn said, oh, that's a good answer. Well, the point was just that it's so useless, so why waste time thinking like that? Because otherwise it's just all the story about me and my great or my little development or more or less. So if it happens, okay, it can be understood, like Nina said, as just self there, it's just clinging. But actually it's just takes away from understanding what appears at this moment. So it's the release, the letting go.
Again,
Yes.
and then there's no attention to this moment. It distracts all the time. Yeah.
And when there's not this kind of thinking, that is the relief, the letting go of the burden. That's the burden, when it's just clinging to the idea of I and my progress and how can I be aware. It's a very heavy burden. So, but good to know it, good to appreciate it when it arises.
Yeah.
Is it there now? No more.
There's always something, Ajahn. But there's always something now, and it's gone.
Is there any hardness appear now?
But if we try, it isn't helpful. When you say it's a hardness and then we touch like this, it won't help. We are trying again.
After hearing this, it can be touching or not touching, see, depending on conditions. And what is touched, it is hard. When it is hard, it cannot be anything. It cannot belong to anyone. Even this is the truth that is very hard to understand until time comes to just understand. And then without awareness of hardness, can there be the understanding of hardness?
So, Ajahn, the people with great accumulations during the Buddha's time, for them, anything can be a reminder about the reality now. So, when you say something like, is there hardness now? Of course, there is, and it is understood by that level of understanding. And even when they are told about be more aware, there can be awareness without the idea of self.
Can anyone tell anybody to be aware?
But it can be a reminder to people who have understanding.
And know the difference between direct awareness and intellectual awareness. Because they are there, but not I. So as it's not known, it is I. When it's known, it's not I.
And if there's no understanding or clinging to the idea of self, instantly trying to be aware at that moment. So it depends on the accumulation at that very moment when one hears that word about is there awareness of hardness, whether there's understanding or ignorance or wrong practice instantly. So it just depends on the accumulation at each moment, what arises.
Hi. Hello, Ajahn. I was thinking about when we hear the words like table and things and people and different concepts, we immediately have memory of the object we are thinking about. But when we hear you talking about seeing a visible object, there is really very little memory or no memory at all about the characteristic of the object you are talking about. So that's why it's so easy to talk about seeing an invisible object, but understanding it is a completely different matters, and we can develop the understanding of the characteristic as we have heard before, or reading or studying it when it appears, or when we hear about it. Can you say more about the concepts of reality and the concepts of concept?
Can you know what will you think? Can you know what you are going to think about?
No.
What will you think? Can you know before?
No.
See, nothing can be known when it's not there. And how can it is there? How can it be there? It cannot be there without conditions, for it's arising. If it does not arise, it cannot be there. So everything now is conditioned to arise. Just learn to understand, even no precise, direct understanding of each yet, but there can be the beginning of Dhamma, the reality, the truth of what which is not known before, like the whole body. When there's no thinking about the body, does it appear? See, only this. When there's no thinking about the body, does the body appear? And understanding is from the answer. When there's no thinking about the body, does the body appear?
No, it doesn't appear.
See, it's not there. So when there is thinking about it as a body, but what is the truth? What is the fact? The body. What is body? See, what is body? There is body when we think of body, but what is body?
It's a reality. Yes.
So it's wrong because there's no body at all. See, everything. It's not the tree, it's not the carpet, it's not the glass, it's not the bed, it's not the body. There is no body, as there is no tree. There are only different realities appearing together as something, as nimitta, different form and shape. So it brings about the idea of this and that, or body. But actually there's no body, as there's no I. So it's not just no I, but also no body at all. But there's the idea of my body all the time. So what is right and what is wrong, this is the beginning of understanding what is true and what is not true. So we don't hurry to understand everything, but just to understand whatever appears now as it is. Because before asking, talking about the body, there is the idea of my body all the time. But when there is the moment of wanting to understand the truth, rather than just not knowing the truth of whatever appears in life, so even the word body is their body. And this is the beginning of understanding what Buddha said as Dhamma, the truth, the reality, the characteristic of that which is real, for just a very short time and then never be again, never to return to be again. Only a moment, very short, so short, and this is samsara. From moment to moment, different moment, that's all. No one, no self, no body, no thing at all. And this is what it's meant by Dhamma. So we study Dhamma, the truth, the reality, that it's not as we think about it before, as something permanent and it's belong to me or mine. Is it good enough? Just understand this, even so little, because it's true. And it can be more understood, understanding from hearing, considering, learning, not try to stop it, but to understand the way they are. Different things, different conditions, different reality. Does not belong to anything or anyone at all. When it's true, it can be object of hearing more, to understand more and more, less and less ignorance and attachment. My conditions, quite a relief, no way to do, no one can do, because actually each is conditioned just to be like that and then fall away, permanent, never again, forever. So you cling to what? It's gone.
Right. Yes.
And this is the point of studying Dhamma, to understand the truth until it appear well, because Panya is there, which can understand it, as it is, not as something like my body. So live according to conditions, that's all, until changing to moment of death, no more this identity, this personality, nevermore in samsara.
Yes, thank you, John.
See, anything can show its truth, but there's no thinking about it. Like the hair, when it is cut off, it's not your hair anymore, see? But when it's here together, it's my hair, my nail. But actually, it's hard, only hardness, that's all. No matter where, here or there. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's conditioned to arise and pass away completely, absolutely.
So we just let conditions do their functions and
So the best thing in life among all Sankhara Dhamma is Panya, right understanding of the truth.
So, Ajahn, it is only Panya that can understand, not any other Dhamma.
Right. The best of all Sankhara Dhamma. Because it understands.
So, understanding the worldly things, like understanding the meaning of something said, or any other kind of subjects that are not about realities, that is the function of different realities at different moments then?
Right. Because even we don't use any words at all. Reality is reality. It cannot be changed.
And Dham, it does not have to necessarily mean just other subjects. It can be even with when we're talking about Panya, when it's not understanding, it's just thinking with different other Chetasikas.
What we call conventionally understanding, like understanding the recipe we're following or understanding the way to drive to our destination, has nothing to do with Panya. It's just thinking about different concepts, different ideas, Vitaka and Sanya and many other, usually with lobha and ignorance.
But moha cannot even understand conventional things, can we say?
Whenever there's lobha, moha is there. So if there is, when understanding how to follow a recipe, lobha and moha most of the time.
But what about the moha mula citta?
So at moments of akusala, when it's not lobha or dosa, moha is there. Like even now in a discussion after seeing and hearing, mostly lobha or moha, just not knowing. So even while following the recipe, seems there is knowing and there seems there is some understanding, but mostly it's just lobha and moha in between.
And Ajahn, I've heard you talk about Lobha being very smart. Can you say something about that?
Because now it's here, no one knows it.
Very crafty. Like the example of the hardness or seeing, when he is a reminder about seeing or hardness, and the crafty lobha sneaks in instantly. But even before that, even in the sense store processes, we know it arises completely unknown. Even now.
And you talk about, you go on, Sarah.
Yes, well, even now, completely unknown, the crafty lobha is there instantly as soon as there's looking at the screen, but even long before that, as soon as visible object is seen, lobha arises immediately, long before there's any story or idea of recipe or picture or color or anything else.
And also Ajahn talks about Lobha being both the student and the teacher.
And it's not Ajahn, it's the suttas, the Buddha who teaches about this, about the lobha, the teacher one follows, and the student that follows afterwards, following lobha all day from first thing in the morning to last thing at night. So what we hear are actually the Buddha's teachings. Some people say, like someone mentioned on our discussion list, that what was said about no me, no I isn't the Buddha's teachings, but we can find it all in the teachings as taught by the Buddha.
So what I said are the words of the Buddha.
Yes.
Not my own.
It's important to emphasize this, otherwise people say, oh, Ajahn says this, or Ajahn says that, and another teacher says this. But what we're talking about are the Buddha's teachings. Even what Sariputta or Ananda taught about were the teachings of the Buddha.
But Sarah, wouldn't whatever the words, if it conditions this understanding in the listener at that moment, that person would know that it could only have come from the Buddha.
Buddha, if it's true, if it's right. Because it's so very subtle, who but the Buddha could teach about the Dhammas now as anatta and the subtlety of the asavas arising immediately after seeing and hearing and so on, or about the different chittas in the sense door process. It has to be the Buddha's teaching.
I appreciate very much to be reminded of the asavas, which are always there and not known, so subtle. It's always useful to be reminded of them.
And it's good to appreciate that it's right now at this moment. The unknown clinging is there instantly.
Yeah.
The teacher and the student following as well.
So do you have teacher now?
We have all the time.
And so Tam, even now, following the teacher of Loba, but in between so many moments of ignorance, just not knowing anything. So no matter we're having a discussion or driving a car or cooking the food, countless moments of ignorance whenever the attachment's not arising in between. That's why abhijja is also one of the asavas, besides clinging, besides the wrong view, also abhijja asava, just ignorance. So after seeing, hearing, ignorance is there.
So today, what we learn about?
Loba as the teacher now.
We learn about no me, no I.
Dhammas which are anatta at each moment now, no matter what we're talking about.
But Ajahn, did we really learn? Or we just heard a lot of
Because
things
we
with no
talk about
understanding?
seeing, we are learning that it's not me, no I.
Yes, but it's mostly just repeating without understanding or thinking without understanding. But I guess there must be moments of understanding in between, and understanding works its way.
The
But it's
more
hard to conclude.
understanding, there can be condition for direct understanding right now of one reality by conditions because of less attachment to the next one. Otherwise, we follow that which appears arising and not knowing the arising and falling way. But when it's there, without understanding, there is attachment all the time. So we learn about no I. All of these are different realities. This is the point, to understand no I, the absolute truth, the noble truth, the way to have less and until no more ignorance, attachment, and all akusa. Otherwise, it has to be accumulated on and on from life to life, more and more. And if we do not forget that we learn about no I, it will be less attachment to the I, because the understanding of no matter what we are talking about, seeing, hearing, not me, only different realities, until the not I can be firmer and firmer and firmer. So it can understand the moment of arising and falling way, because less attachment to that which follows immediately.
And I felt it was a good point when, for example, we're talking about paramis, and Tukin asked about dana or sila parami, and one would just like to get the answer, but you asked him, what are the paramis for? And the answer is it's for the purpose of understanding the truth, understanding that the dhammas are anatta. So it seems one doesn't get the answer one wants, but behind the question is unseen lobas there, just wanting to collect the information to clarify. But the purpose is really to understand whatever appears now as anatta. So this is how subtle the teachings are.
That is it. We often expect an answer, but then it comes out differently because Ajahn would explain from the beginning.
And it has to be our own consideration, our own reflection, not just getting a point.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ajahn. I think it's about time.
Yeah,
it's very helpful, very useful.
And I rejoice in your understanding and good deeds.
Thank you. We'll see many of you tomorrow. Yes. Okay. See you, Ajahn, next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.